often overlooked is how businesses in Ukraine are surviving political and economic turmoil. My next guest knows this environment inside and out. Richard Spinks is the boss of an international supplier of fuels and raw materials in Ukraine with a presence across Europe and North America. As well as being president and CEO at Active Energy Group, he has previously worked on international IPOs and startups. He joins me now from CNN London. Richard, thank you very much for being with us. Can you give us a sense of what the situation is on the ground in Ukraine? We know it has to be disruptive, but are businesses able to operate at all right now in this current environment?
Well, I think most importantly, it depends where you are in Ukraine. I think people underestimate the scale of the country, and the majority of the problems that businesses are facing, where they are facing problems, and they're serious problems, are faced in the east, where physical damage is done to infrastructure, where it's been made impossible to operate, for example, if you're in certain manufacturing or processing or mining, particularly areas. Where we operate, we're doing better than ever right now, but there's that risk. You know, there's that worry. Are these problems going to spread further afield? And if they do, clearly we may face problems ourselves, and more companies will be affected. But it's all about where you are at the moment.
Richard, what is your sense of the sanctions? Are you confident that they will work? They seem to have had very little impact right now. They don't seem to be moving the needle on the political front, which is the intention. Do you think that that is the right way to go? Are you confident that with time that they will start to put the squeeze on and they will have an impact?
Yeah, well, I think certainly certain areas in the Russian economy, they are having an impact. Whether or not that's going to change what's going on in eastern Ukraine to any significant degree remains to be seen. I think that there seems to have been a dramatic slowdown in the progress of these Russian-backed and Russian forces. I know it's only my opinion. People would say that isn't the case, but to my view, it is. I mean, for example, my city now is under the control of these separatists, of these terrorists, have been variously described. Our cities are closed. Will it go further? I think this is the question.
Are you worried about the energy situation? You know, a lot of this taking place, as we've noted, during summer, where that's not that much of an issue, but as a business person, you've got to plan ahead. I know there are concerns, even in the papers today, about what that is going to mean for Ukraine. How much of a problem is that for you?
Well, for us, it's not a problem. It's actually an opportunity, because we provide fuel, and we work very closely with the state forestries, and we work with green energy. And green energy was a topic that was never discussed in any great detail in Ukraine until Yanukovych was forced out of office. So until all of this started. And now there's this rush based on for two reasons. One is the uncertainty about gas supplies, and the second one is the damage that's been done to the infrastructure in the east, where the coal comes from. So on both areas, it seems there's now a mad rush to get into green energy, and maybe that, you know, from all of this bad press, maybe there'll be some exciting new opportunities for Ukraine. Another thing that's happened is, I've read today, 4 new gas fields are being opened up in the further west in Ukraine than where the problems are at the moment. These were projects that have been around for a dozen years. They never got off the ground because perhaps there were reasons that people felt that they would rather use coal at that time. But now there's no choice. So it's giving new life to projects that have been backburnered for so long.
Which, as you point out, if there is anything good that can come of it, it is certainly nice to hear that. Do you feel, whenever you're talking about rebuilding an economy, which is really what has to be done in Ukraine, do you feel that as a business person that your voice is being heard? Do you feel that you're able to influence and have impact in Kiev, or is the government so preoccupied with the military situation they face that there hasn't been enough done to start to address some of these economic issues that have been ignored for so long?
No, I think that Ukraine, of all the countries I operate in and have operated in my career, is one of the countries where you can actually affect the economic climates the quickest and the most efficiently. Under all of the governments that I've worked under in Ukraine, actually, the people are they're so entrepreneurial, and they're so dynamic and keen to build their country against sometimes very difficult odds, that there's almost a willingness to try anything. And it makes it so much easier, particularly when you have an opportunity that you can explain to them and that perhaps you can even finance with them, that you can get things done. So I'm very optimistic about the future for Ukraine. I don't think we yet know how it will look, but I'm sure that the people, in their will and their desire to develop their nation into a strong economy, and it should always have been a strong economy, it's just taken a long time to get there, is there, and it will push them through.
And that is certainly encouraging to hear, and we appreciate you bringing that view. It's one we haven't heard enough of in these days. Richard Spinks, CEO of Active Energy. Thank you so much, Richard.